All right. It looks like people are joining, so we'll just give it 1 minute.
Okay, sounds great.
Is that readable?
I
Kristen, does that look readable to you? Okay, thank you. Hi, Danielle.
Hi, how are you?
Good. We just got started. We're going to give it a minute to let everyone get in here. People are joining.
Perfect.
Okay, I think I'll get started. My name is Mark Weicker, and I'm with Abdenauer Weicker, and this is the Special Education Legal Clinic. This is a collaboration between Abdenauer Weicker, the Ohio Coalition for the Education of Children with Disabilities, and Disability Rights Ohio. And we are midway through our transition series, and we have a workshop, about a 1-hour workshop, give or take. And today's workshop is on the transition to independent living. It's going to be presented by Amy Freeman from OCECD. And like I mentioned, this is the middle of the series. You can sign up for this and any other workshop through it's the URL lawyers4students.com/legal clinic. And that's where you sign up for the workshops and for the individual guidance sessions that we have following the workshops. And those are private sessions, 30 minutes each. And we do the workshops and the individual guidance sessions 1 time a month, typically on the 3rd Monday of the month, but today's on a Tuesday, thanks to the holiday yesterday. And we'll have some time at the end, some Q&A, and you can ask questions about the presentation or the workshop that's done today, or general special education questions. And we'll also have a Q&A going during the course of the presentation. We may or may not be able to answer some of those questions depending on how the presentation is going, and depending on how fast we move, we may be able to ask Amy some of the questions as we go. But those questions will largely be answered by Kristen, Danielle, and myself through the course of the presentation. Please do use the Q&A if you can. There's also an option for closed captioning, and the button should be available at the bottom of the screen if you need closed captioning for the workshop. This is also recorded, so we'll post the recording typically a week or so after the workshop. We'll post it online so that you can view the workshop on demand. And all the prior workshops, save maybe last month's, is available online on demand, but they will ultimately be up there for everyone to view. So I'll move on to Amy Freeman from OCECD with the presentation of Transition to Independent Living.
Great. Thanks, Mark, so much. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Amy Freeman, and I'm the statewide Transition Programs Coordinator for the Ohio Coalition for the Education of Children with Disabilities, also known as OCECD, or the Coalition. Well, welcome to Mapping Dreams, the Transition to Independent Living. The Ohio Coalition is a statewide nonprofit organization that serves families of infants, toddlers, children, and youth with disabilities in Ohio, and the professionals who serve them. We have also been funded since 1984 to serve as the Parent Training and Information Center for the state of Ohio. We help parents become informed and effective representatives through knowledge about laws, resources, rights, and responsibilities. The information we are bringing you today is part of our role as well. We will put a link to all the resources for today in the chat, as well as a link to the PDF for this PowerPoint. Actually, those are all already embedded into the last slide that I'll show you, the last 2 slides I'll show you today. At the end of the time, we will ask you to fill out the short evaluation, which provides continued funding for us to offer free trainings to agencies, families, professionals, and it's pretty brief. Mark and Kristen, I'm deferring to you. I'd like to know who's our audience today, if you're professionals or family members, just so I have a sense of who we have.
Yeah, and I think if the attendees, if you want to drop it in the chat box as to whether or not you're a professional or parent or caregiver, that would be great. I think that's the best way to do it.
Oh, great, thank you. And then as those come through, you guys will have to let me know. Next, please. The resources that I'm going to share with you today are primarily created by the PACER Center. And the PACER Center is Minnesota's Parent Training and Information Center. And they are gurus on transition for all of the United States. So we access their resources regularly, and we have partnerships and funding through them for the work that the Ohio Coalition does. And they have many curriculum, and I've included links for the PACER Center because it'll be valuable for you to become familiar with them. Next. This is Mapping Dreams, the transition to independent living, and we'll explore what families and youth can do to help plan for the students' successful transition from high school to independent living. One of the tools you can use in paving the way to a successful future is the transition process. We also provide suggestions for your family to use at home and in the community. The transition your child will make from being a child to becoming an adult member of the community is an important journey, and the one that requires a plan. It's important to begin thinking about your child's transition to adult life as early as possible. In fact, some of the trainings we do, we recommend families start transition training for their kids as young as preschool. And I'll talk about some of those resources in a little bit. Your child will need to make many significant decisions during this journey to adult life. By using this presentation as a starting point, you can help your youth make those decisions and plan for life after high school. The National Longitudinal Transition Study explored the characteristics and experiences of 13,000 students ages 13 to 21. And what they found among what they're terming their interesting findings is that there were 5 groups of youth with disabilities that were at higher risk for successful transitioning from high school. Those are youth with autism, deafblindness, intellectual disability, multiple disabilities, and orthopedic impairments. So just as a piece of information. Next, please. The National Longitudinal Transition Study also cited 7 characteristics that are linked to post-high school success for youth. And I think these are really valuable for families to be aware of and for professionals to know about. Performing the acts of daily living well. Remember, these are characteristics linked to post-high school success. Getting together with friends weekly, participating in a school sport or club, avoiding suspension, taking a college entrance or placement exam, having recent paid work experience, having parents who expect the student to live independently. Again, the youth's transition to adulthood, parents clearly play an important role. Next. Parents are forever. Why are parents and families so important? You have the history to carry forward into adulthood. You've been parenting and a member of the IEP team since the beginning. You know what's worked and you know what hasn't worked so well. You know about your child's whole life, not just a slice of it. You have the big picture view. Parents are the keeper of high expectations that build upon the young person's success, strengths, interests, needs. Parents also support and guide their children to make informed choices and decisions. Your involvement on the IEP team may formally end when rights are transferred to the student at the age of majority, which is 18 in Ohio, However, parents often become the transition expert or case manager once the student graduates. So involvement in the school transition process will help parents understand options and gain needed skills. Students will begin to take on more responsibility, and parents will find new ways to provide support. Things are changing. It's important to remember that while the parental roles change when a young person graduates from high school and reaches the age of adulthood, it doesn't end. A student's maturity, cultural values, and other individual characteristics will determine the kind of involvement and family support that is appropriate and helpful for each student. Next. The power of parent involvement and high expectations. I think this is such a great piece of information. Research has shown that family involvement is a greater predictor of successful outcomes for youth than income or social status. In addition, students with one or more parents who participated in the IEP meetings during 11th and 12th grades were more likely to be engaged in post-school employment. Students with parents who had high expectations were more likely to be engaged in post-secondary education and employment. When families remain involved in their child's middle school and high school education, students are more likely to attend school regularly, have a positive attitude about school, earn higher grades, score higher on standardized tests, graduate from high school, and enroll in post-secondary programs. So those successes matter in the long run. Parent membership in the transition planning is required and essential. Parents can provide a foundation for keeping the transition process grounded and focused on the child's individual strengths, needs, and preferences. Parents know their child's post-secondary education or training, career ambitions, and possible support needs. Parents may be able to identify family or community members who also can provide additional support. Next. As we learn, parent expectations are a key factor in a young adult's post-school success. Higher expectation is that people with disabilities will have equal opportunities for full participation in society. In the United States, having high expectations for individuals with disabilities is not just a good idea or wishful thinking, it really is embedded in the civil rights law. Disability is a natural part of human experience and in no way diminishes the right of individuals to live independently, enjoy self-determination, make choices, contribute to society, pursue meaningful careers, and enjoy full inclusion and integration in the economic, political, social, cultural, and educational mainstream of American society. Next, please. The federal law supports early transition planning for children with disabilities beginning no later than age 16. However, in Ohio, planning must begin by age 14. The Individuals with Disabilities Act, also known as IDEA, requires that all children with disabilities have available to them free, appropriate public education, provide special ed and related services. And these services are designed to meet the unique needs of the individuals and prepare them for life beyond high school. But parents also transition. They need to learn additional skills, such as when their child is entering the adult world, they may need to become familiar with what the disability laws are, how to foster self-determination and decision-making skills with their youth, and also to learn about adult services, service systems. Learning how to ask the right questions to the right people is also a key skill for parents. Parents often become the investigators of what might be available far enough in advance in order to make decisions soon enough to prevent impact. The IEP team involvement may formally end when rights are transferred to the student. However, parents frequently become the transition expert or the case manager once the student graduates. Students will often start to take on more responsibility, and parents will find new ways to provide the support. A couple of transition tips. Everything takes twice as long as it's supposed to. So plan on that. And then there will always be lots of trial and error. So start early. Try to always have a plan A and a plan B. And to understand that the school can't and won't do it all. Next.
Hey,
Start to, yes.
I'm maybe one slide ahead of you. This slide here is high expectations for access, opportunity, and participation.
It should be here we go from here to, we go from here to there.
Let's see. There we
And
go.
Amy, I just took a look at people's responses, and it looks like there's a good mix of parents
nice.
and
Wonderful.
professionals.
Okay, so those of you who are professionals, if there are any slides or resources that you glean from today, please share them with your families. And remember that these were created by family members who have experienced transitioning for their youth. So it is from a family perspective. So we'd love for educators to share the resources out with families, and we're really grateful that families are here too. So let's take a look at some ways that that you can think about kids and as it comes to mapping dreams for independent living. What are your child's current skill and experience level as they hear, and their hopes for further education and training and employment and independent living after high school as the there? Families of children with disabilities want to help their children achieve their own dreams. This requires early planning and the active involvement of your child as much as possible. As families, your involvement in the transition process includes becoming aware of options, inviting new people into your child's life, staying flexible, asking questions, advocating for your child's needs, to explore what's possible. It can be challenging to figure out what expectations to have for your child with a disability, especially when you want to have high expectations, don't understand what possibilities are available. That's a really challenging thing for families to deal with. So families really need to know what's out there and the route to get there. Learning about possibilities to meet or talk with other parents of older children with the same disability as your child is very helpful. Check out the independent living centers, vocational rehab centers, disability organization, PACER, the Ohio Coalition, for resources in Ohio. If your child has a county social worker, they may be willing to provide examples of how other young adults with similar needs are meeting their post-school goals in your community. Become an adult services detective, visiting a community college and meeting with disability services staff, attending transportation resource fairs as a family, preparing questions and discussing what you learned afterwards, connecting with other parents and share what you've discovered, asking voc rehab counselors, county social workers about the success stories of others and what the resources are. As you plan and help find clear goals and dreams with your child, you will increase their chances of achieving them. The good news is families don't have to do this planning alone, as the next slide illustrates. Transition planning in the IEP often includes additional team members at the IEP meeting. So there's the student. School needs to invite them. Really encourage your child to be involved in the transition planning process because it's his life or her life. And the team needs to know what they care about, what their goals are, what their fears are. If they don't attend the meeting, maybe there's a way that they can communicate either through a video recording or an audio recording of things that are of interest to them, like what their hopes and dreams are. Using checklists, there's a checklist included in this presentation to help identify your child's strengths, needs, preferences, and interests before a meeting. I know of some students that have actually created PowerPoint presentations with the help of their family to be able to communicate what their strengths goals are to the team. Family members need to be invited to the IEP transition meetings and informed prior to the meeting that the discussion will involve transition issues. Parents know their child best and remain equal members of the IEP team until their child reaches the age of majority, which is 18. Once a student turns 18, he or she assumes the rights the parents have had and can invite the parents to the IEP meeting. The school is no longer required to invite the parents unless they become the legal guardians of the adult child. There can be additional staff, anyone that has been completing evaluations or assessments need to be part of that team as well. Guidance counselors, work coordinators, and the parents and the youth can bring their own folks or representatives to the IEP meeting as well. So it could be family friends, a mentor, or people in the community. And I want to reference supported decision-making as it relates specifically to a child becoming the age of majority. Supported decision-making is a framework to support people with disabilities to be able to make their own decisions about their life, education, employment, healthcare, and legal areas. What's important about supported decision-making is we believe that all individuals have the right to make these decisions unless it's been determined that it's a disadvantage for them to do that. So we do know of schools who recommend as soon as a child turns 18 that the family takes guardianship, and that is not current thinking, and we don't believe that's helpful for helping youth become their own advocates and to be able to make their own decisions with guidance. And we have a statewide supported decision-making network of Ohio, and there'll be a link for that in your resources. And it's a great group talking about how important it is for youth to be able to continue to make their own decisions with support from their families. It builds on providing information, skills, and guidance to make decisions in the areas where support is needed, just as any one of us would seek out our friends, family, and supporters when we need advice. Next, please. Just a brief look at the transition planning process, which is kind of a map of the secondary transition planning process in the IEP. Evaluation forms the foundation of the IEP, looking at current skills and abilities, strengths, interests, and preferences, academic and functional activities of everyday life, and long-term goals for learning and impact of the student's ability on reaching these goals. Using the information developed from this transition IEP, the team can create something that will be a path from where your child is now or the here to where he or she hopes to go in the future. Using age-appropriate transition assessments, comprehensive evaluation, parent concerns, student input, professional input as well, all helps to identify what those present levels of performance are, and then the development of the IEP. So work with your IEP team to address questions such as what transition services in the form of annual goals, course of study, activities, supports, in order to move toward achieving the desired outcomes after high school. What extracurricular activities and enrichment opportunities might also support the goals. When determining the what activities and goals to include in the IEP, families will want to consider whether progress on the goal will move the student closer to being ready to successfully pursue their high expectations for learning, living, and working as an adult. And you also want to create linkages with other agencies and service providers before graduation, so you can make connections. You can start like a framework for seeing what others can do to help support your child. Next. So now looking at what families can do to map dreams in independent living. Your youth will need to develop specific skills to prepare for this journey. When you or a case manager are not there to manage schedules and paperwork, organization and time management may be a difficult challenge. Daily living skills such as money management and self-care, social skills, all need to be navigated if an individual will be moving to a college campus and adult living. Helping your child learn to manage important documents, evaluation reports, medical documentation, transcripts, and diploma. You may use a combination of hard copy and online methods such as Google Docs, etc. for record keeping. Working with your child at home and with the IEP team will help your youth develop these important skills before leaving home and increasing their chances of success in a post-secondary setting. I also want to call out that the Ohio Coalition has a youth portal called Youth Self-Advocacy and Empowerment. And we regularly are adding new resources, and we have infographics for youth to learn about how do I become my own best advocate and how do I manage myself as I transition from high school to beyond high school. Next. When parents think about the transition to adulthood, employment, or post-secondary education, when parents think about transition to adulthood, often independent living is not the first thing that they think about, but it's so important. So independent living skills impact all areas of adult living. These skills affect opportunities to learn, work, and live full lives integrated into the community at large. Interdependence is also highly valued in families, communities, and work settings. Who of us does not need the support of a coworker, friend, or family member almost daily? For instance, will your child have the skills needed to participate in the community, help manage a home, part in recreation and leisure activities? Not all youth will require support in this area on their IEP. Your child's goals in these areas are determined by the IEP team based on the age-appropriate formal and informal assessments, as well as input from you and your child. However, you will want to explore your child's needs and strengths in the areas of independent living, regardless of school services. I want to talk just a moment about charting the life course. Charting the life course is a way of thinking about what is in the best interest and what is going to create a good life for an individual. In Ohio, the concept of charting the life course has been embraced by many schools, many developmental disability service organizations, opportunities for Ohioans with disabilities. The Ohio Coalition is embedding the Charting the Life course framework into the trainings we provide, trying to help families and individuals look at where they are now, what they don't want to move forward, and where do they want to go in the future? What is their good life? What does their good life look like? So again, there'll be references to Charting the Life course in your handouts. I strongly recommend you either as a school agency or as parents to look at some of the videos that are available on the Life course website to learn more about it and become familiar so you can use it for yourself as an individual. I've gone through trainings where it was a 6-week training, and I did all of the work on myself because there are many things I need to address internally. It's a great framework, and it really helps guide the work for your transition age youth. There are many resources specific to transition, so you'll want to check that out as well. Next. As you begin thinking about independent living options, consider how your child might be able to pursue the activities that they've shown an interest in as they continue to be an adult without the support of the school or someone else providing direct support. Recreation and leisure activities. Once your child is an adult, staying involved in recreational activities may require more initiative. It's not going to be as easy because you're going to have to make plans and you're going to have to figure out what to do. You can help your child by encouraging them to explore a variety of recreational and leisure activities available during school, after school, and in the summer. Talk to a school counselor to see what's available extracurricular wise, non-academic wise, using natural supports as much as possible, because that means that your youth is going to be embraced by his community and not be reliant on external supports. Finding activities of interest at home, such as gardening, building projects, music, computer activities, writing, poems or stories, photography, reading, fitness. Those are just a few. And considering programs in your community. Some are designed specifically for people with disabilities, while others are open for anyone that wants to participate. There may be community education, community recreation programs. The Centers for Independent Living have options, Special Olympics. More community involvement means opportunity to work with the community theater, museums, art galleries. These would be ways of building self-confidence for your youth and inclusion, also a great way to make new friends. Research plans or places to volunteer, including food banks, recreation programs, nonprofit organizations, retirement homes, hospitals, one-time events such as a fundraiser. Activities that your youth currently enjoys in high school can also transfer to adult life, such as art, sports, theater, or movies. And you'll see that there are resources from PACER, great videos by youth, for youth, about independent living suggestions. Again, research from the National Longitudinal Transition Services indicates that parents who hold the high expectation that their youth will live outside their home by age 30 is a strong factor in successful adult outcomes. Just trying to remember that anything you can do, trusting that your child can do this because that's what he is in his good life, what he thinks is valuable for himself, living outside of just being part of the parental home. And it may be that living at the parent's home is the primary option that you'll work on with your child. Families can set rules and responsibilities for every member in the household, but you want to encourage your child to be as independent as possible. Living in an apartment, if your child rents, they will likely not be responsible for maintaining the yard or building. Living in their own home, if your child buys a home, they will be responsible for the maintenance and repairs. Living alone with support services. Often a rental situation, the option allows for independent living with support staff. Group homes, subsidized housing. Again, PACER has a lot of suggestions on how you can pursue or what kind of options are available for youth that transition beyond high school. Next. This is a checklist, and what I would suggest, and what we know others have done, is to make 2 copies of the checklist, one for you as a parent, one for the student. And after you record your responses, you compare your answers. Then you can decide based on the information that was gleaned from both perspectives, how much information you want to share with the IEP team. Discuss the questions such as, talk to your youth about independent living. Where do I want to live? What do I want to do in my community? What are my favorite recreation and leisure activities? How do I connect with people in my community? What are 3 activities I'd like to do in the future? We've included some of the resources from the Charting the Life Course framework to guide the youth and family in this planning process. Resources specifically address where and how someone lives, housing and living options, community access, transportation, home adaptations, and modifications. Again, you'll decide how much of what you learned when you compared your both of your responses, how much you want to share with the IEP team. Discussing these questions and understanding the options that are available will help your young adult to set some independent living goals or destinations. Next, please. Youth can practice independent living skills while living at home. Though it's often faster and easier to do it ourselves, including your child in the many activities required to run a household, go to work, and live independently in the community is really the only way to build the needed skills. So include your child when cooking, cleaning, shopping. Give them a list of groceries to buy and assign household chores. And you're going to have to, depending on what the ability level of your child is, you're going to have to decide what makes sense in your own situation. Making sure your child knows all the medications they take. What are they for and when do they take them? Maybe using the days of the week pill box that they can fill and use. Scheduling doctor's appointments. Ordering prescription refills from the pharmacy. Opening a checking account so they can learn how to write a check or use a debit card, deposit money, and withdraw cash. Obtain a copy of an apartment application and work on how to fill out that application with your child. Show your child how to read a schedule and take a trip to the store. Practice what to do in emergency situations and who to call for help. Look for ways to turn interests into real skills and social experiences. If attending movies is one of your child's favorite community activities, make the most of it. Help your child make plans to invite a friend and decide on a plan for transportation to and from the movie. Again, the coalition has some great ideas on our youth self-advocacy and empowerment youth portal for more resources. Next. Many families are interested in learning more about adult service providers and other options available at the local level. However, parent surveys have indicated families often do not receive this information from the school. I don't believe schools are withholding the information. I think they're not thinking about it or they don't know. So it's really important to have information about what adult service providers are available. Your child may need ongoing support to live in the community. Programs offered through the county should be explored while your child is still in school, and that you can establish linkages with these organizations while still in school. Many public agencies have eligibility requirements, fees, and waiting lists. The Developmental Disabilities Assistance and Bill of Rights Act, it's called the DD Act, requires that states provide services and supports to people with developmental disabilities and their families. These services can include case management through the county, assistance when applying for benefits, including Social Security, medical assistance, semi-independent living services, and assistance with housing, social, and recreational needs. County services may also be available for children with mental health needs. Eligibility is determined by medical diagnosis, living arrangements, needs, and other criteria. Contact other adult service providers that do not require eligibility, such as Centers for Independent Living or disability-specific groups. They may help with teaching self-advocacy, providing written materials and other resources, offering peer support or support groups, giving ideas for assistive technology, and providing disability-related assessment resources. Next. Here are some of Ohio post-secondary transition resources, and you can Google any of these. I don't have actual links for this slide, but these are services for transition age youth once they're transition age as well as beyond high school. Next. Long after the last teacher or therapist has disappeared from your child's life, you will be there to support and encourage your child. Will he or she be prepared for the future? You can make the difference now by asking questions, helping to develop your youth school program, and supporting the learning of skills in the home and community. Dreaming hoping and seeing potential where others may not. That's the role of the family. Believe in the capability of your child, cultivate patience, and view your child's future with anticipation and optimism. Remember, children often live up to our expectations. What we want for them today has lifelong implications and benefits. Thank you for being part of this presentation today. Your child is fortunate to have an involved and informed parent supporting them on their journey to adulthood, as well as involved and informed professionals to support them. I call out kudos to all the professionals that are here as well. Next, please. The Ohio Coalition can help with any questions you have to help support your youth, whether it's transition age for post-secondary or transition age from birth to 2. There's our website as well as our 800 number. So we would welcome any phone calls or emails about specific questions you might have about your child. Next. This is the QR code for our evaluation. As I mentioned earlier, it's pretty brief. And there's also a button to download handouts that will be available as well. So I'll open it up to any questions anyone might have. And I've not been able to see anyone this whole time, so I'm going to close out of here.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, first of all, Amy. And there a couple of people have asked whether or not the presentation could be made available. I think the slide, people are interested in the slides.
Yes.
I don't know if that's possible.
Yes. Yes, it will be. So can I send it to you once we're done and you can share it out? Is that possible, Mark?
Yeah, we can email it to all the attendees if that's okay with you.
That's great with me.
Okay. Yeah, we'll do that then. And there was a question a little while back, but I think I'm going to paraphrase, but it was, how is it best to encourage a school district to, I guess, engage in this independent living transition planning? And are there, and how is it best to get the other agencies involved in that planning?
Well, I'm trying to think about what's the best way of thinking of this. Unfortunately, and we had a staff meeting this morning, and it came up in our staff meeting, and not just multicultural families, but many families find when their child is transition age that the school they don't know what the requirements are for transition planning. On the coalition's website, I really strongly encourage you to go there. It's the self-advocacy and youth empowerment. There are resources on the website. It's an IEP checklist for teens and the IEP process for families as well as youth, what to do before, during, and after an IEP meeting for transition age youth. It step-by-step directions. How do you approach teaching staff? How do you become knowledgeable yourself as a family member? That's probably where I would become knowledgeable myself as a family member before I would try to ask for information from the school. That's my opinion.
Got it. That's helpful. And that's OCECD.org, right?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Yeah, I just posted that in the chat box.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't think so. Any other questions? We can definitely open it up now if you want to put a question in the Q&A box or the chat. Yeah, that was helpful, Amy. Thank you very much. Very comprehensive.
Mark?
Yes.
Okay, I thought I lost, for a moment, I lost connectivity. So just checking to make sure I didn't miss anything.
Yeah, I was just curious myself with transportation options for, I guess, postgraduates. If that, is typically planned through the county, or if there's an element or some way to incorporate, the ride shares or like Uber and Lyft.
Mhm.
How's that typically done?
Um, I don't think I don't have a great explanation for that or guidance on that, other than talking to what local agencies are available and how do they serve their um, their young adults with disabilities through the programs they offer. When I was at a transition fair a couple of weeks ago, the local transit authority was there, and they talked about all of the offerings they have for youth with disabilities and how to support the families. So I probably would start with your transit authority to see what's available and how do they serve youth, and what are the best ways of moving forward with that.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll share. I have a brother-in-law who the county provides transportation to and from work each day, 5 days a week, and it's through a taxi cab company that picks him up, like 5 a.m. and drops him off, after work every single day. And he actually rides with his peers. I think it's a van, so there's 3 or 4 of them that they pick up and take to work, and it's great. It's a fantastic program funded by the county. And then on occasion, we've been brave enough to have him take Uber, which we do through our own phones, but, get him back home that way. Yeah, I wondered in part, for that reason. All right. It doesn't look like, unless I'm missing them, let's see, Q&A. Where can we find some examples of SMART IEP goals for independent living, education, and employment? Thank you.
I'll have to get back with you on that. At my fingertips, I don't have any, but so when you send out the PDF of the slides, we'll include that too.
Okay. Yeah, that's a really good question.
It is. Thank you.
And I know I've seen them too. I just
Right.
can't recall what the resource was where I've seen them for
And
transition. I think we've talked about them in our prior sessions.
I think you're right.
And the next question, can travel training be an IEP goal for adults with an IEP?
For young adult, for transition age, absolutely.
Right, yeah, prior to graduation, then absolutely think travel training can be a goal.
And should be if that's the, where the youth lives, or if that's a situation that the family's involved with. Yes.
Yeah, good question. Okay, that looks like it's it. Amy, thanks again. Great presentation. Sure. And we'll see everyone next month. Actually, we have the situation next month with it's going to be on a Tuesday because of the holiday. I think it's President's Day. I'm not sure, in February, but so we fall on a Tuesday again for the next workshop, continuing in our transition series. So thank you everyone for attending, and for the panelists. Hope everyone has a good week.